How long do you need to be legally married before you should file your green card application, your I-485 application to become a permanent resident? The short answer is not very long. As soon as you get your marriage certificate, we could apply for adjustment of status. So that's the whole video. You guys can stop watching now. Just kidding. There's actually a lot more to discuss here. So the longer that you've been in a good faith relationship, not just married, the better chances you have of getting your green card application approved. And it's not just the length of time, it's the entire timeline of your immigration history and relationship with your partner. Let's look at a quick example. So let's say a guy came here as a tourist in January and his tourist visa expired in June. And then he met somebody in July and they got married later that year, let's say October. And then in October, he comes into my office and he says, I want to apply for my green card based on my marriage to my US citizen spouse. In that situation, I would look at his entire immigration history and how long he's known his partner, his spouse at that point. And I would probably tell him it's too soon because it was your first entry into the US as a tourist. You overstayed, and then immediately after overstaying, you found someone, and then you married them within a few months, and now you want to apply for adjustment of status. That's probably too soon. Now, if he tells me, this wasn't my first entry, I've entered the US several times as a tourist, and I've known this person who's now my spouse for a year or 2 years, and we were kind of like long distance dating, and then when I came in this most recent time, things got more serious and we decided we didn't want to be separated anymore, then I would say fine, no problem with that. We can apply for adjustment of status the moment you get your marriage certificate. So the entire timeline makes much more of a difference than how long you've been physically married to your spouse. If somebody recently got married and they're in my office seeing how strong their case is for a marriage-based green card, I would typically ask, what evidence do you have to show that you guys have known each other, or at least now that you're living together and sharing your lives together, so that an immigration officer believes that you're in a good faith marriage? And depending on their history together, that's probably what's going to determine whether or not we should apply for adjustment of status now, or whether we should at least wait a few months, gather some more evidence of their relationship, and then submit a stronger application. Some people don't move in together until they're married or very close to getting married. And in those situations, it's common for them to not have a ton of evidence of their relationship when they're first married, even though it definitely is a good faith relationship. They're not going to have more than maybe a joint lease agreement and maybe some photographs from their civil ceremony. Maybe they've been on a trip or two. In those cases, what I like to do is gather everything that we have, a complete timeline of their photographs, maybe a lease agreement. If they just opened a joint bank account, I would consider not even submitting those bank statements initially, although it depends on what other evidence we have. Sometimes I will submit joint bank statements from a recently opened bank account, but the plan is to just submit enough evidence to get the case to an interview. If you don't submit enough evidence, there's a probability that midway through the process before you get to an interview, you'll receive a request for evidence or a notice of intent to deny. And regardless of which one you get, you have to immediately respond with more evidence that the applicant for the green card is in a good faith marriage to their US citizen spouse. And by then, if you don't have enough evidence, you can be in big trouble and the case can get denied before you even get to an interview. And if the case gets denied, as you guys know from following my channel, you'll be placed into removal proceedings, and that's just going to add a ton of expense and complication to the entire process. After we file the green card application, there will eventually be an interview, and that could be 6 to 12 months later. And by that point, you really need to have way more evidence that you're in a good faith marriage, because when you attend the interview, the immigration officer asks you for any updated evidence of your relationship that you want to submit. And at that point, you should be submitting way more evidence. And for people who haven't seen my other videos, some examples of evidence can include lease agreements or mortgage statements listing both spouses, joint bank accounts, joint credit cards, insurance documents that could be health insurance, life insurance, car insurance, joint phone statement, utilities, evidence of travel together. That can include flight confirmations for domestic flights, hotel or Airbnb confirmation, and then photographs of your entire timeline since you guys first took a photo together up until right before we submit the green card application, or up until you attend your green card interview. I prefer for these photographs to be organized chronologically with a brief description next to each photograph. A good way to do this is to just put all your photographs in order in like a long Microsoft Word document, and then add a couple word description to each page, and then export the whole thing as a PDF. All right, guys, just to summarize, it doesn't matter how long you've been married. What actually matters is how long you've known your spouse and how much your relationship has developed in that amount of time. If you need any assistance with a family-based immigration case, a marriage-based case, or naturalization, or you just want to talk to me to see how strong your case is, please schedule a consultation. My information is in the video description below. If you're new to my channel and you just want to learn more about family-based immigration or recent changes to immigration under the Trump administration, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time for another video.